contrary to what you're seeing before you, a nice, put-together, functioning member of society, 30-something-year-old sexy woman. Believe it or not, I was a bad teenager. And by bad, I mean that I flirted with disaster and made out with bad guys and got really close to getting into really deep fucking trouble. And at the time, I was like, I don't know, whatever. My friends are fucking awesome. We're just doing illegal shit. It's no big deal, whatever, smoking pot and doing graffiti and ridiculous shit. So, one of my best friends in high school, her name was Peggy. That's what we're going to call her because this is going on the internet. So, her name was Peggy, and she was awesome. I loved her. I loved sleeping over her house because she was the youngest of 3 daughters, and her parents, they were just fucking tired. They were like, we don't even care. Do whatever you want. Doesn't even matter. So much so that she grew up in a Cape Cod, and her bedroom was on the first floor, and out her window was a little ladder to sneak out. We snuck out so much that she found the little ladder in the garage and was like, hey guys, instead of jumping 4 feet, we could just walk down the little ladder. They didn't even care. Her dad was not like, why is a little ladder by your window? It wasn't even an issue. We could have just been like, hey, we're going out at 2 a.m. We don't know when we're gonna be back, and that's the situation. And they would have been like, okay, cool. On your way back, can you pick us up some Dairy Barn iced tea? Side note, Dairy Barn iced tea is a delicious beverage that is only sold at Dairy Barn, which is a chain. It's a chain of amazing convenience stores that you can drive through. It's a drive-through convenience store only in the Northeast on Long Island. That's where this story takes place. So they'd be like, give us some Dairy Barn iced tea. And we'd be like, yeah, no problem. But they didn't do that. We just snuck out, whatever. So one night in the summer of my going into sophomore year, so I was 15 years old, me, Peggy, and my friend Tanya, also a fake name, had this elaborate idea that we were going to sneak out and hang out with Bjorn, Jellybean, and Thrasher, because fuck it, we're doing all the fake names. Bjorn, Jellybean, and Thrasher, and we would go out and make out with these dudes. The reason we even had this idea is because we saw Bjorn the night before, and he was telling us, he's like, oh, my dad is sleeping over his girlfriend's house, and he left his 1995 Toyota Camry, champagne-colored, at his house with the keys. And we were like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. Now, I know some of you guys grew up in the sticks and grew up driving your fucking mom's station wagon when you were 13 years old and stuff, but where I grew up, you didn't drive a car without at least a permit, and we didn't have any, we barely had a permit. We were 15, whatever. But on Long Island, right outside New York City, you didn't do that. The 7th precinct was in my town. So we definitely had the thought of oh, I don't know, should we really do, fuck it, we're doing it because Bjorn is friends with Jellybean and Thrasher and we want to make out, duh. So this was the plan. Bjorn was gonna borrow the car, the Toyota Corolla, that's what it was, right? He was going to borrow the Corolla. He was going to pick up Jellybean and Thrasher, then pick us up at Peggy's house, which we were obviously going to stay at, and he would pick us up around the corner at 2 a.m. So, 1:55 a.m. comes, we are in Peggy's room, we put in a VHS of the season 2 of Friends, because she was obsessed with Friends, and recorded it on VHS, that was a thing. And so we put it in, and then we put the volume up really loud to make it seem like we were enthusiastically watching Friends. It was so ridiculous. And then we just casually climbed out the window onto the ladder and left. And we ran around the corner, we already lighting up a cigarette, and there was the car with the boys. We're like, oh yes, we're gonna make out, it's gonna be so awesome. So we get into the car, and the boys are there, and they have weed and beer and mixed CDs, and we're ready to go. So Bjorn was driving, obviously, and I don't know what came over him, if it was maybe he was nervous, there were girls in the car, or that he like stole the car, or there was drugs in the car, or he didn't even have a permit, whatever all that shit was, he wasn't really using common sense. Like, we were bad kids, all right? Like, we knew where the cops were, how to evade them, when not to go places. Like, you never went to the train station, parks, you didn't go to like the woods. Like, well, Bjorn didn't really do any of that. He went where like the cops would be. He started our joyride on the highway, which is like riddled with cops all over the place. And we were like, no, dude, just get off the highway. And like, I really didn't say anything because I was fully making out with Jelly Bean at this point. But he got off the highway. Then we were driving around like side streets and having fun. We like smoked a blunt, listened to Biggie, just like felt the vibe. Then we were like up north, like out of our town, and we come across a train station. Not our train station, but a train station. And we were like, dude, don't go by the train station. The cops are gonna be there. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And it's at a stoplight, at a red light. We're sitting there, and I don't know what the deal was. Maybe it was because I was high and 15, but I look over, and there's only one other car on the road, and it's this U.S. flatbed mail truck. And I'm sitting there, oh my gosh, this is okay. And I'm thinking, wow, I've only seen like the little mail trucks that bring mail to your house. And I thought, that's a really funny looking truck. And then the light turned green. And so the mail truck goes to make a left, and Bjorn, going straight, all of a sudden, his 15-year-old brain goes crazy and decides, I am going to also make a left with this mail truck. So the mail truck's going, we're going, he decides to make a left and fail fucking miserably. He crashes into the car, he does like a crazy fishtail, stops, gains his composure, then speeds away directly in front, going towards the train station where there's 2 Nassau County police officers in their cars just waiting for something to happen. And we're like, oh my God, what are you doing? We just hit this car. We have to stop. We're gonna die. And all of a sudden, we're like, what the fuck? And so Thrasher in the front seat, who's making out with Tanya, he's like, dude, go right, go right, go right. He goes right. Then he makes another right, and then we drive for a few more minutes and make rights and lefts and twists and turns, and before we know it, we're away from the train station, and we pull over in this little side street and get out of the car to just be like, dude, that just fully happened, and we assess the situation. And so we look at the side, like the driver's side of the car, and it's just so fucked. Like, the whole thing is smashed in. We were fine, like 6 15-year-olds were totally chill, not a scratch on us, but this basically brand new car was like totaled. And for a moment, I felt bad for Bjorn. I'm like, dude, this kid like stole his dad's car so we can make out. That's like not fair, but whatever. But anyway, we all started yelling at each other, but like quietly whispering because we were afraid people would come out of their houses or the cops would find us. And we were just like, what are we gonna do? We gotta get rid of this car. Maybe we should put it into a river, a fucking river? Where's there a river? I don't know, there's a river. Shut the fuck up, Jelly Bean. So all of a sudden, Bjorn's like, guys, I got it. I know what I'm gonna do. He's like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna put the car back in the driveway. I'm gonna get rid of the fingerprints. I'm gonna get rid of the fingerprints, and then I'm gonna rip the wires out underneath the steering wheel so it looks like someone stole it. And we're like, okay, so you wanna go home, put the car in the driveway, do the fingerprints, rip the wires to make it look like someone hot-wired your dad's Toyota Corolla, and that's it? He's like, yeah. We're like, okay, yeah, that sounds totally cool. It sounds totally cool. That sounds like the most responsible thing to do. But he said, but we all have to promise that we're never going to tell anyone for the rest of our lives. Straight, it was like real talk. He's like, we can never tell anyone for the rest of our lives. And we were all like, yeah, we're never telling anyone for the rest of our lives. And so there we were in like, I know what you did last summer, full on. Like around when that movie came out too, so we were like, this is fucking real. And except we didn't accidentally hit like a fisherman guy on like a fucking highway. So Bjorn drives us back to Peggy's. We all say our goodbyes. We make out. We all say goodbye. Peggy did not make out with Bjorn. No one made out with Bjorn. He looked weird. The other guys were cute. And then he drove Jellybean and Thrasher back to their house. And I was like, dude, we're never going to see this kid again. Like, he's fucking dead. But we did see him. School year came. Bjorn was there. And we were all like, dude, what? Like, on the DL, because no one could ever know. And he's like, I told my dad, I did everything I said I was going to do. He thought someone stole the car. And no one ever found out. And then we would be hanging out at like parties or smoking cigarettes or cutting school. And like whenever the six of us were together, we just like give each other a look like, yeah, man, like we've seen some shit that we can't unsee. Like these other kids, they don't get it. These high school kids don't get it. We carry around the weight, the decisions that we made. Never tell anyone again, ever. Until this podcast. And that's it. Thank you.
Rachel, Germaine, ladies and gentlemen.